It is a dark, grim day here today, and it looks like the heavens are about to open, so I thought we could counter the bad weather with some exciting plants. Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today. I really love making these kind of videos from time to time because, as you know, as my plants change and evolve and grow, so do my opinions of them, and I think because despite what the weather's doing today, we are currently just coming into growing season, I'm noticing a lot of, on the whole, very positive changes in my plants, and I think I'm just kind of, I don't know, I'm being drawn to things that I previously, I don't know, was maybe overlooking a little bit, and for that reason new plants are kind of becoming the apple of my eye in a way that perhaps they maybe weren't before. So I thought I would just take you through my current top 10, some things that I'm really loving, talk to you a little bit about the plants and show you why I love them so much. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learned over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And yeah, as I say, I've not only got some gorgeous plants to take you through today, but I have also got some exciting updates. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Before we get into the exciting plants, one thing that is not so exciting is I went to check on one of my prop boxes today that I haven't opened in probably about 5 months, and I didn't realise because I'd never used this exact container for propagating before, but it looks airtight and it's obviously not. And everything in here has just dried out to a crisp, and I'm really sad because I had some really unusual philodendrons in there, I had some beautiful alocasia corms, and everything is just gone, like no saving it whatsoever. So just a reminder to always make sure you are checking on your prop boxes from time to time. This was at the bottom of a pile of about 8 different prop boxes that I've got, so I just assumed everything was fine and it wasn't. But on a more exciting note, I'm going to start with the one that's right behind me because you can probably see her. Oh, and I've also just put the prop box down on my remote, so I'm just going to turn the television off. There we go. Yeah, I am going to start today with my Alocasia jacklyn, and if you watched my Plant Chores video Q&A the other day, you'll have probably seen I got very distracted halfway through the video and I started showing you the new leaf that my Alocasia jacklyn had put out, and I just wanted to actually, with the camera properly set up, just show you here because I feel like it didn't gauge very well in that other video, and look at the size of it. Like, this is the most insane leaf this plant has given me, and I feel like the camera just isn't doing it justice. Like, look at the size of that compared to my face. It is ginormous. And the Alocasia jacklyn, it's a plant that I wanted for a really long time, and this one specifically is very special to me because some of my plant friends in the plant community got together, I think about 3 years ago now, and very kindly got me a little Alocasia jacklyn, which is the one that you see here today. And I just feel so incredibly proud of this plant and how far it's come in a relatively short amount of time, actually. Like, when I first got this plant, although it had, I think, probably about 3 or 4 leaves, if I remember correctly, none of them had kind of started to develop all the beautiful shades of green in them. They were just very dark, they were very juvenile. And I think because gradually it's just sized up with every new leaf and then done a little bit of the old alocasia cycling thing where older leaves will die back, I almost haven't noticed it sizing up. But in fact, when I watched my episode of Gardener's World, which came out about a month and a half ago, 2 months now, when I watched that episode that we filmed this time last year, I was just blown away because I was taking my Alocasia jacklyn out of my cabinet in that clip, and I was like, yes, look, it's such a beautiful plant. And I was thinking to myself, my God, even if I took all of the shelves out of my cabinet now, this plant still wouldn't fit in there. And I'm actually not quite sure, I need to do some digging, but I'm not quite sure how big this plant can get. I've obviously got like my big, I don't know if you can see, no you can't see her in shot, but I've got my big Alocasia portadora behind me that is capable of growing leaves. I mean, capable of growing leaves probably to about the size of me. I don't know if this one has a point at which it will stop in a UK home environment. I'll put some clips in of the position that I'm currently growing this plant in as well. It's getting pretty decent light. It's getting kind of filtered light through my south-facing window because it's sat behind lots of other plants. I've got my shelves of like prop boxes and stuff in front of it, but it seems incredibly happy there. The one thing that I have experienced a lot with this plant, and it does seem to be fairly standard with the Alocasia jacklyn, is spider mites. And this one is, for some reason, just a little bit of a magnet for spider mites. I haven't struggled with them on the tops of the leaves, but on the undersides, that is where, I mean, it's commonly where you notice them first anyway, but that is where I have found to be really badly affected. So I've just got into a habit of kind of every other time I water this plant, taking her through to the shower and just giving her a blitz down front and back. And that seems to be a good way at keeping them at bay. And touch wood, I haven't had to deal with spider mites on this plant in maybe 6 months now, which for an Alocasia that is very prone to them, I think is pretty good. But yeah, as I say, I am just amazed with the way that she's growing. I think she's also a little difficult to show you at the moment because all of her growth has turned to face one way, but the colours within her foliage are just so beautiful, so gorgeous, and the potential of this plant just excites me so much. So yeah, I can't wait to come back to her in a few months' time, especially, as I say, we're coming into growing season. I can't wait to see what she's going to do. I find this time of year just a really exciting time for owning plants because obviously it is when they really kind of start doing lots of exciting things. I know obviously it can be quite difficult to monitor them in some ways because things like certain types of pest can be much more prominent at this time of year, but on the whole, I just find it really exciting. So yeah, I can't wait to see what this one is going to do. And yeah, I will keep you updated with her. And the next one that I've brought over to show you is an Anthurium, and it's an Anthurium that I haven't really spoken about that much on my channel. I think I might have kind of briefly glazed over it in my houseplant tour, but it is the Anthurium luxurians platinum. And this leaf here is its newest leaf, and at the moment, because it's still kind of hardening off, you can't really gauge that platinum silveriness, but if you look at some of its older leaves, you can tell they've got a beautiful kind of bluey silver sheen to them. And I think that is just gorgeous. I love the texture of this one's leaves anyway. I think they're just so glossy and shiny and ripply and just, I don't know, they just do something to me. I can't explain it. And this is an Anthurium that I'd wanted for ages. In fact, I'd wanted the luxurians, not platinum, just the normal luxurians for ages. And then on, I think it was Eastern Tropical's website about 5 months ago, I saw that they had a little baby platinum and I was like, oh, do I do it? And I bit the bullet and I did it, and it's grown really quickly for me. I think I'm right in saying it only had these 2 leaves when I first got it. And so yeah, it's sizing up amazingly. And it's just been fun to kind of experiment and play about a little bit with this type of Anthurium because it's one that I'm not familiar with. I've never grown a luxurians before. And I am desperately trying to challenge myself with Anthuriums this year. I know I've joked in a few of my videos saying that I've got my secret Anthurium collection. And I know that makes it sound way more secretive than it actually is. I'm not trying to keep it a secret. I just feel like I'm not ready to talk about the care for those plants because I don't feel certain enough about it myself yet. So this is one that I have been doing some experimenting on. Currently it's growing in pretty much, it's got some bark and perlite in there, but pretty much tree fern fibre, bark and perlite. What you can see on top of the soil there as well is just the colony stuff from the predatory mites because I have just done a big release in my flat. But this one's growing in my cabinets at the moment, and I have found that some types of Anthurium really don't get on very well with cabinet life. They don't like the heat, and this one so far seems to be absolutely loving it. So yeah, I feel like I'm just really getting to know the plant. It's the fact it's growing quickly and the fact it is sizing up so well for me, it makes me think that it's happy. It just looks so glossy and healthy. I'm really happy it's doing so well, because I did have a little kind of, oh, when I first got it, thinking, oh my God, have I just got a plant that I know nothing about, when I'm not feeling that confident with Anthuriums as it is? Is this a massive mistake? But touch wood, so far, things have been good. Things have been good. So it's just one of my plants that I am constantly checking on. And I think because especially at the moment, I'm making such a conscious effort to just have plants in my collection that I really, really love. Like try not to hold on to things that I'm not totally in love with. It's often quite hard to distinguish like what are my favorite plants. I know that might sound ridiculous, but sometimes like I'm looking at like my Alocasia Mitchellitziana, my Alocasia Regal Shield, and I'm like, those feel like favourites, but the ones that I always am like, no, they must be the apple of my eye at the moment, are the ones that I just feel like I'm drawn to and I need to keep checking for updates. And yeah, this is 100% one of those ones at the moment. Whenever I open my Millsberg cabinet doors, it's the first one I go to. And the other thing I really love about it is it's got these red stems on the back. Like, I like that very subtle little pop of colour without it feeling too overwhelming. Also, my God, the back of the leaves are even gorgeous. Look at them. But yeah, I'm so excited to see how big this one will grow as well, because I've seen luxurians with leaves like that. I don't know if mine will get to that stage, but I am keeping everything crossed. The growing season works its magic and it stays happy in my home, and I will let you know how it gets on. I also need to give it a water because it feels very dehydrated at the moment. And then this next one is kind of two plants, and they are tied in my love for them at the moment, and you will see why when I talk about them. But the first one is one that I've shown you many times before and I consistently adore. It is the Peperomia Hope, and I just think this is the most wonderful, wonderful, wonderful plant. I love how like succulent and robust its leaves are. I've said before they're almost like Hoya leaves, but they just feel a little bit more poppable, kind of like, I can never pronounce it right, but Dischidia crossed with a Hoya. That's kind of how I think of it anyway, but I just think it is such a beautiful plant to grow. But for me, it doesn't grow that quickly. Like, the growth that it gives me is very rewarding, but it doesn't grow that fast. And the reason that it's tied in this position, not that these are really in any order, but the reason it's tied with another plant is because I recently came across the Aescananthus Thailand pink lipstick plant, and I fell in love with it for all of the same reasons I have fallen in love with the Peperomia Hope. It's got a very similar, if you look at them side by side, it's got a very, very similar texture. Granted, this one is currently much lighter in colour, and I think the main reason for that being is, firstly, it is due for a water. It's a little bit flimsier than I typically like to see it, and also this one is currently being grown in direct sun, and this one is being grown in quite low light. I do think if I was to up this one's light, or I was going to say lower this one's light, but I don't think this one would like it very much. If I was to up this one's light gradually, I think this one would become much lighter in its appearance, because that is typically what happens to plants. But yeah, as I say, this is for me just a much fuller and more adaptable version of the Peperomia Hope. And for that reason, although it's a fairly new addition to my collection, it's one that has just kind of gone straight to the top of my list. Like, I've got it on one of my lower light hanging rails just above where I'm sitting, and it's been so happy there so far. It's putting out lots of new growth, which makes me really happy. And it is just a much more, as I say, a much more adaptable kind of version of the Peperomia Hope. They're not even in the same genus of plants, but they're just almost like this is almost like an easier dupe for the Peperomia Hope, I would say. It is such early days, but yeah, that is just the impression I've got of this plant so far. And every single time I look at it, I'm just like, oh, I just think it looks beautiful. I'll put a clip in of it so that you can see it in the position I keep it in, but it just looks like a beautiful little hanging, I don't know, like almost like a hanging string of, I was going to say string of pearls, and I know there is a plant called the string of pearls, but you'll know what I mean. I feel like you'll know what I mean when you see it. It's just so bobbly and beautiful, and oh, I genuinely just adore this plant. So yeah, it is up there with my favourites, and it's one that I'm just really excited to grow. I cannot believe it's gone this long in me owning plants without me having one of these. I didn't even know this type of vase canthus existed until the RHS Malvern Spring Show. So yeah, I'm very happy that I stumbled across it, because so far it's making me amazingly happy. And I can't wait to see what it does for me next. I'm also quite excited for it to bloom, to be honest. Apparently it produces beautiful blooms. I'll put a picture on the screen so you can see what they look like, but they are so pretty. So yeah, who knows? Who knows? But I will let you know if it starts doing anything more exciting. And another one that I am really, really loving at the moment is my Manjula pothos, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy with everything about this plant. I just love the way it's growing for me. I love the balance of variegation. I love how low maintenance it is. Honestly, I barely do anything to this plant and it just keeps looking so beautiful, and I love having plants like that in my collection. And this is one I actually made up from 2 cuttings that I got at another plant swap, actually from the same person both times. And I'd never owned a Manjula pothos before. I'd always liked the look of them, but I don't know, for an Peperomia, it's unusual. Like, I find here in the UK, I don't see them out and about very much. Like, you don't tend to run into them at garden centres or anything like that. So yeah, when I came across the cuttings the first time, I was really happy. And then I saw the same person again at the other plant swap and I got some more. And yeah, now I'm building a really lovely full pot of it. And to be honest, it's one of these plants that I'm looking at and I'm kind of like, I want to not fill my house with it, but I want to, I'm looking at all these sparse corners where I'm like, that could use a splash of greenery. And I'm like, I want to put more of this plant there because it's so easy to care for. I've got this one in semi-hydro at the moment. So all I do is just make sure its reservoir stays filled, which requires next to no effort from me. I'm also not that vigilant about monitoring it. But yeah, I'm looking at all these spots and I'm like, shall I chop and propagate? Shall I order some more? I don't know. Also, I know I'm trying to lower my plant maintenance at the moment and kind of pot things up together, so that's probably not the best idea. But if you are, for example, looking to add little splashes of greenery, then this is one that I would highly recommend. Honestly, I just find it such a joy to grow, and it's one that just constantly excites me. I've got it just below my TV here at the moment, and like, I know I've said before I can be funny about colour with houseplants, but different shades of green and different textures are very different for some reason for me and my weird brain. But yeah, whenever I look down there at just that area at the moment, I just am so happy with how everything's growing and it just looks so fresh and vibrant. And yeah, this plant is just making me really, really happy. So yeah, it's one that if you don't own, I would highly recommend. I don't know why I didn't get one sooner. I wish I had got one sooner, especially as a newbie plant parent. I feel like this would be a great one to start out with. So yeah, as I say, if you don't have one, go out and buy one because they are totally worth it. And then one that I haven't shown you, well, I don't think I've shown you in a while. Have I shown you it in a while? I don't think I have, but it's one that I want to talk about all the time because it is just the most amazing plant, is my Anthurium pallidiflorum, and I am so happy with how this plant is growing for me. This had been a wish list plant of mine for I don't even know how long, years and years and years, and I finally got one in January, and it only had 2 little, I say little leaves, like they were like that size, like that's one of the originals, and I did actually lose another leaf, so I believe that was another original. But yeah, it's just amazing me how quickly this plant is sizing up. Like, again, I'm holding it against my face just so that you've got a bit of scale so that you can compare and see how big the leaves are. Because yeah, I feel like every single time at the moment a leaf finishes hardening off, a new one will start to form. Like this one here, which is pretty ginormous, only finished hardening off literally maybe like 4 or 5 days ago, and already I can see that one is getting ready to push out. So I would have thought a new leaf will be out in, I don't know, maybe the next week or so, which is just amazing. I thought that because this plant isn't very readily available here in the UK and like the price on it can still be quite high, I thought it was going to be a really slow growing Anthurium, and it has 100% proven me wrong. If anything, I would say it's probably my fastest growing Anthurium at the moment. I think I am right in saying that. I was trying to think if there's another one I'm forgetting about, but yeah, this one just seems to be giving me leaves left, right and centre. And I find it as well a really easy plant to grow because, again, similarly to what I said about the luxurians, sometimes I think when you've wanted a plant for a really long time, I don't know if any of you have this, but I always kind of get the fear that when I actually get it, it will either be anticlimactic, which doesn't happen very often, but it does happen occasionally, or I won't be able to keep the plant happy and I will end up feeling like a failure, which I know you're not if you kill plants, but it just is how it makes you feel. And I was really scared that this one was not going to go my way, and it has honestly been so ridiculously simple. It's another one I barely do anything to. I'm growing it in my south-facing window and I'm watering it at the moment around about once a week. It did have a repot not that long ago, so it has got a little bit more substrate in there, kind of containing the root system. But yeah, it's given me no grief. It seems really happy, and every single leaf just seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I really hope, again, growing season brings wonderful things for this plant, because I just want to grow this one huge. I know I don't have the space to be able to grow it huge right now, but my dream is to have one that kind of trails from ceiling to floor. That would be the goal. And yeah, I feel like we're well on our way. So if you are looking for something with beautiful texture, with velvety leaves, very striking, very easy to care for, then yeah, it's another one that I would say go out and buy. I know I'm making all these recommendations and I probably shouldn't for all of our sakes. But yeah, it's one that I adore, find amazing to grow, and would, yeah, I'd recommend it. And another one that I haven't spoken about properly or given spotlight to in a while, and I feel like it definitely deserves it, is the Hoya linearis. And oh my goodness, this has got to be one of my favourite Hoyas. It is so different to every other Hoya in my collection. It's so fuzzy and delicate and furry, and again, texture. I think it's just beautiful. And this is a Hoya that I used to rave about all the time, because for years and years and years, this is one that gave me no grief at all. And it didn't start giving me grief when I moved here, but I've said in other videos, for the first time when I moved to this flat, I started struggling with mealybugs, and that is something that previously I had never really encountered. I'd had the odd one or two here or there, but I don't know what it was about moving here. Suddenly, loads of my plants got mealybugs, what seemed like overnight. And my Hoya linearis was one of them, and if you've ever had mealybugs, you can probably appreciate what it's like to have them on a Hoya linearis, because there are so many little nooks and crannies for them to get into, and I didn't notice it at first. I wasn't being particularly vigilant with my pest checking, because this had been a plant that had never given me any grief at all. I think I was maybe a little bit complacent with it, and I just looked at it one day and I was like, oh my god, I was like, why is it all white and fluffy? And then I kind of lifted up one of its little leaves and I was like, oh my god, they're all mealybugs. And I found it a struggle to treat. I lost so many sections of the plant because I was spraying it in alcohol. I was doing all of the things that I felt like I should be doing, but because it is quite a sensitive, delicate plant, there were a lot of sections that just didn't make it. So I took a few cuttings from the healthy plant. I think, when did I take the cuttings? Probably about a year ago now, to be honest. And I've had a few just propagating around my flat in water. I've had quite a few through in the bedroom. And literally in the last week and a half, I have just decided to pot them all back up together. So finally, for the first time in what feels like ages, I've got a nice full Hoya linearis again, because before it was just looking very sparse. I think when I showed you at my houseplant tour, it was just in a cup with semi-hydro. And I have actually put it back in soil now, just for the time being. I've kind of gone back to how I was growing it previously when the plant was healthy and happy. that's purely a psychological thing. It was perfectly happy in semi-hydro, but yeah, I'm enjoying growing it again as a full plant. And believe me, I am just going to be so incredibly vigilant with my pest checking this summer. It's just such an easy one to miss because, as I say, there are just so many little nooks and crannies that unless you are like going through with a really fine tooth comb, you can overlook issues so easily. But I'm going to attempt to get better at it. Maybe just like, I don't know, I was going to say something really lame then. I was going to say maybe just like bring it down onto the sofa and check it as I'm watching TV sometimes. But I feel like I should do that because I do not want a repeat of last time. Because it's such a gorgeous plant, and when it's not pesty, it is so easy. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed for it, that it stays looking lovely and healthy, and hopefully I won't have any more issues with it. And I'm wondering how easy it's going to be to turn the camera. There we go. Oh, I might need to put some clips in because I don't think the light's great. But the next one is my Philodendron Splendid. And oh my goodness, I again feel like I just haven't spoken about this plant enough recently. And again, I think it's probably primarily because firstly, it just hasn't been doing great. Like, don't get me wrong, it's giving me lovely new growth, but as you can see, like some of the leaves down here have just been a little bit battered. It did have thrips very badly at one stage, hence why it's been kind of pushed out of the way of all of my other plants. I had to rearrange about 2.5 months ago, and I decided to swap out my big Monstera deliciosa. I put this one here, and although it seemed like happy, it wasn't doing amazingly. And literally in the last week, I've just got this gorgeous grow light from Grow Gang that I showed you the setup of in my last plant tours video. And I have just been looking at this plant in a way that I feel like I haven't looked at her in such a long time. I am just reappreciating how gorgeous she is. Not that I ever forgot about it, but you know, when sometimes you're having to do lots of boring things to a plant, like pest treating and like changing out moss poles and the things that aren't necessarily the most exciting, you kind of, go a little bit into, I was going to say work mode as opposed to appreciation mode. And I feel like over the last 6 months, that's kind of what I've done a little bit with this plant. And now I'm just kind of standing back for the first time in a while and going, you know what, this is such a stunning plant, and I feel so lucky to own it. I feel so lucky to have grown her to the size that she is, because this again started as a 1-leaf cutting from the first plant swap I ever went to. And yeah, I just adore her. I absolutely love my Philodendron Splendid, and I feel happy that my love for her is kind of being reignited, because I feel like I haven't given her the love and admiration she deserves in a little while. So yeah, it's one that, again, now that I've got that grow light as well, I'm so excited to see what she does in this position, because there is not a huge amount of room for her to grow there, but she is currently stacked up on top of other pots, so I could potentially lower her down and give her much more space to grow. So yeah, I feel like she is gonna be pretty happy in that spot, I hope. And again, as always, I will keep you updated with that. But yeah, I just think she is beautiful. And another reappreciation that, again, I feel like just hasn't had enough time in the spotlight recently is my Aglaonema stripes. And I have always loved this Aglaonema. I think it is absolutely gorgeous, but I gave it a wipe down again in my plant tours video the other day, and I was just looking at it when I was editing that video, and I was like, oh my god, I was like, I love this plant, I really love this plant, and why do I not take time to do this more with this plant, as weird as that sounds? I feel like sometimes my plants, or certain plants, can get a little bit overlooked until I actually say to myself, right, okay, today here's 10 minutes aside to go and actually do something specific to that plant, and then the spark is like reignited. And I really feel that about this one, and I just think it is stunning. It's so stunning. And again, it's another one that is so easy to care for and just gives you beautiful growth without you having to do that much. And I feel like, as I've already said once in this video, I feel so grateful for those plants, because they really do just, I don't know, they have this will to live, and they are just so hardy and so rewarding without you having to kind of give up all of your energy, because my God, I've got some plants that I'm like, I don't know, it feels like I'm slaving over them trying to get things right, and they are just going nope, 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 and they're not giving me anything back, and things just keep going wrong. And it really does just make you appreciate moments with plants like these that just give you beautiful growth and stay looking so full and happy and healthy. And as I say, it really don't do much to. Again, I've got it in semi-hydro. I will fill its reservoir. I mean, to be honest, again, I don't really check, and I know I should. But at the moment, its reservoir, oh, you can't really see, but it's probably got maybe 2-3 centimeters of water in there at the moment. But I just typically, every time I'm around that area, because everything else is in transparent containers, I can just monitor their reservoirs, and typically it dries out at about the same rate, so I will just fill that at the same time. But yeah, I love Aglaonema as a genus, as I have banged on about many times, but this one right now, I would say is probably my favourite. Oh, my eyes just landed on my Silver Queen. That one's a favourite as well, but yeah, this is newfound appreciation again. I just think it's wonderful. And I've said it before as well, but it's almost got, I think because of the, I don't know, the kind of stripy, unusual tropical vibe it gives off, it's almost got Calathea vibes, but it is like the opposite of Calathea in the sense that this one very rarely, like I very rarely have any browning or pest issues or anything. It just is so much more tolerant than Calathea. So if you like the look of, like for example, the Calathea orbifolia, and you're looking for a bit of a dupe, I would 100% suggest looking at certain types of Aglaonema, because they have very similar lighting requirements, but they are just hardy as anything. So yeah, I love this one, and I'm so excited to watch it keep growing. I also have only recently moved it over here. As I just said, I had a little bit of a rearrange recently, and I really like it here. And maybe that's why I'm just reappreciating it, because I'm seeing it in a new light, quite literally. I don't know. But next, I thought I would include another one that I got in Malvern, because it's making me very happy, and it's maybe not the one that you would have thought, although that one is one of my favourites as well. But it is the Alocasia mellow, and this one, since I've got it, has just grown an unbelievable amount. Like, it had the start of a new leaf when I brought it home 2 weeks ago, and it's unfurled a little baby leaf just there, which is technically a brand new corm, so I could already divide that and create a new plant if I wanted to, and it's given me that beautiful leaf. And the thing I love about the Alocasia mellow, which you can really see more on the leaves that have hardened off, is the weird texture of it. Like, I said it at the time, but Ross said it looks like plastic. It's almost like you've like poured resin into a mold or something. It doesn't look leaf textured, which I think is really unusual, and for that reason it just kind of draws you in and it makes you go wow. And in fact, some of Ross's friends came over to play D&D a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, literally when we just got back from Malvern, and I'm not particularly a D&D person, but I gave it a go for the first time, and that's a whole other story. But we were talking about types of weird plants, and I was saying there's some called like dragon scale and this and that, and we kind of got onto the topic of alocasias, and obviously I just got loads of alocasias out and I was showing them off, and this one just blew their minds. They thought it was so cool. And also, when non-planty people really take time to appreciate a plant, I feel like that says a lot. So yeah, I'm really excited by it. I've got so many things that I came back from Malvern with that are exciting me at the moment, but this one, it's making me really happy. And I'm just growing it in a chunky semi-hydro mix. It's just in a little plastic cup at the moment. I probably will switch that out for something a little bit more substantial, maybe a jar or something at some point, but for the time being it seems really, really happy like this. And one thing I might consider doing to it is, leading on to the next plant, and again, I know I showed you this one the other day, but I just wanted to talk a little bit more about it. It is my Peperomia incarna. And yeah, so basically I have completely switched up the way I'm growing the Peperomia incarna, and I previously just had this one in kind of like a gritty soil mix. It seemed really happy. It wasn't doing badly at all. It was in my cabinet, but it just, all of its growth was staying quite small, and I've actually lopped the top off both of the stems that were growing before, just to kind of encourage a bit of new growth. And I've put a layer of leca at the bottom, and then I've just put soil on top. And this is not something that I would usually do. I know I have said so many times before, it's really important to make sure your plants have got good drainage, organic matter, and things like leca when you're using a semi-hydro substrate, unless you're using them as a mixer through a soil mix, shouldn't be used together. But I just thought I'd do a little bit of experimenting, seeing as I had several sections of the Peperomia incarna to hand, because I did do a chop and propagate. And since I've done this, bearing in mind I've had this plant for well over a year now, and I feel like I know it quite well, since I have started growing it like this, it has just gone a little bit crazy. I only made this transition 2 weeks ago at the most, and already, I don't know if you can tell, it has got so many growth points coming out, like all down here as well, all the way to the bottom. It is pushing out so many new growth points, like all around there, look at that. And this is much quicker than this plant would typically do that, which is really exciting me, because I'm like, oh, maybe this I don't know, I could try this potentially on plants like my Alocasia mellow. I could maybe start experimenting more with a mix of soil and a mix of semi-hydro. I know it is a way of growing that you have to be very, very careful with. This is purely experimentation at the moment, so I will document it and I will give you updates as I go. But yeah, all I know is that the leaves are feeling so much sturdier, so much more robust. As I say, its rate of growth has massively increased compared to how it was before. And so far, it seems incredibly happy. I can see the roots in there. They look really fresh. They look really healthy. And I'm just keeping the teeniest, tiniest reservoir at the bottom there. And I'm just seeing how it goes. I'm seeing how it goes. That is what plant care is about, isn't it? It's about experimenting. It's about probably getting things wrong from time to time. It's how I've learnt what I bang on about nowadays anyway. So maybe this won't work long term. Maybe it will, but we will see. But yeah, those are 10 and a little bonus if we count the 2 that were 2 as 1. Those are 10 that are really exciting me at the moment, and I would say probably are my top favourites. As always, I had so many more that I could include in this video, because there's lots that are always making me very happy. But yeah, if I had to say right now, those are the ones. And also, I feel like I'm coming to the end of this video in perfect timing, because my God, I don't know if you can tell how grey it is outside. It suddenly looks like it's about to chuck it down again. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and please let me know what some of your favourite plants are at the moment down in the comments below. I often go on like a deep dive after seeing your comments. You'll say a plant and I'll be like, oh, interesting, and I'll look it up, and sometimes I will add it to my wish list. So yeah, do let me know what some of yours are at the moment. And if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.